Welcome to No Apologies on Beck. I am your host, Lori Hinz, and with me, candidate, former candidate, Rick Becker. We're going to be talking all things convention on tonight's show. So, where do we even begin? First, let me just begin by saying you look incredibly patriotic. I love that shirt.
I'm so patriotic. Thank you.
It's super cool.
This shirt was given to me by the Sons of Liberty. An organization which was really supportive of me. And here, let me show you the back here. It's a pretty cool shirt. You see it?
So neat, yes.
Flex my muscles a little bit.
Yeah, very nice.
All right, yeah. So anyway, very supportive group, just like so many people in so many groups across the state. And so yeah, wearing it in homage to these patriots across North Dakota.
Talk a little bit about Sons of Liberty. Where is that located? Is that
they're up in the northwest part of the state, up in Tioga area. They've expanded now into Williston, and they're a fabulous group of people. So if you have an opportunity, if you live in the area, reach out. It's a good organization to be part of, and if you're anywhere nearby, frankly, I would try and get them to have another group. I don't think they want to get too big, but
it's tough when you're growing like that,
yeah.
I guess. Well, speaking of growing, the convention concluded, of course, yesterday in Bismarck.
You see, there's an L, big L on my forehead.
No,
yeah,
no. No, but I was just shocked and amazed at the amount of people, because on the 28th, which was the day that the registrations ended, I stopped into GOP headquarters and I had a little conversation with the executive director, and he told me, he said, Lori, I think there's going to be over 2,000 people at this convention. Well, not only 2,000, there were over 2,300. The total credentialed for the convention was 2,321 people, which made it a record.
Yep.
We'd never had 2,300 delegates before in history that I'm aware.
Right, and I don't know for sure, but I've been told that the highest ever was in 2000 when Hoeven ran the first time for governor and brought in busloads of people for that convention. Wow. So, yeah, and to have that number on a midterm year, which is usually really much lesser attended, really says what's going on across the state. Now, what's interesting is that we had dramatic numbers really increasing from the very beginning, and people are saying, my gosh, what's going on? And by the time the district conventions were over, our numbers showed that we were doing very well. And had the convention been right at the close of the district conventions, we would have won by a fairly good margin. Now, that's what brought the Hoeven campaign to attention, to be much more activated, suddenly reaching out to everyone, suddenly sounding much more passionate and conservative. And the whole Hoeven machine went into action. And so in the ensuing weeks, they were able to, through hard work, I'll give them credit, through his operation, his machine, a lot of hard work and effort, they filled in all of the empty delegate slots, much more effective. So we were far ahead, and I knew that they were closing the gap.
Right.
So whereas it was looking like I might win with 58% about 3 weeks ago, we knew that was coming down. I was hoping we were still, and thinking we were still at 51%, something like that. So I thought it was going to be about a 1 or 2 point margin. But they were more effective than I expected.
Well, as it turned out, the vote totals were 1,274 for Hoeven, and no, that was the other one. I'm looking at the other one. We're going to talk about that too in the third and fourth segments. We're going to talk about the other things that happened at the convention. Yes. So this one was Hoeven was 1,224, Becker 1,037. Yep. There were 36 absent not voting and only 1 spoiled ballot. And I just want to talk about that 1 spoiled ballot, because if you've got 2,298, almost 2,300 votes, and you have 1 spoiled ballot, I'm just going to say these people were really engaged and very smart, because if you spoil a ballot, that means you probably have marked both candidates accidentally, and that spoils your ballot. So that was, to me, really amazing. I know that these people were not only engaged, but they were smart enough to really do it correctly. Yes. And 36 absent not voting, probably after the long day, probably run into the restroom. I'm just guessing, and just
yeah.
missing out, and then waiting in line at the restroom too. But your opponent won by 187 votes out of almost 2,300 votes.
Yep.
That
so
is
had we flipped about 100 of those votes, we would have won.
really
Well, right, because you think about, oh, you had to get 181. No, you had to get half that
of
number
that.
because it takes away from him, puts it
Right.
onto our side. So 100 votes would have put us over the top. 100 votes out of 2,300. A guy with for our political circles, I have good name recognition perhaps, but throughout the whole state, when you have maybe upwards of half the delegates being brand new to politics,
right.
and you've got a much lesser known person against an incumbent who has been governor for 10 years and senator for 12 years, and it's within a 100 vote margin,
Yeah.
that is a victory. That's a victory for the movement. There is no doubt about it.
Well, you said that in your speech, which
Yeah.
was very fiery and powerful and very passionate. It was
I was feeling passionate. That's right. It's kind of in my mind, that moment was the culmination of the 10 years of what I was trying to do for the state, for the movement, for the Republican Party, and I was trying to just lay it all out. And unfortunately, I ran out of time. I couldn't get to my whole speech because we're allotted a certain amount of time, which includes the prior speeches, the applause pauses, and so I was like, oh no, this was, and it's the exact same thing that happened to me in 2016. Exact same thing, except in 2016, Kelly Armstrong came up to me and gave me a little note that said, you have just over 2 minutes. And this time around, Perry came up and said I had 1 minute. I'm like, 1 minute? What the hell can I do in 1 minute? I have a third of my speech. My best applause lines are still to go, and I've not gotten there. But anyway, it was still good. I think it was well received.
So do you think you could have it memorized so that you could go through your last 2 minutes and finally give your 2 minutes if we give you another segment to do?
Yeah, I can't. Passion has to be organic. It has to be real and spontaneous. I can't manufacture it like some politicians.
Understood.
Actually,
I'm
I
not
probably
saying that you
could.
had to be passionate, but I'm curious about what we missed in the 2 minutes of the speech
Well,
here too.
yeah, the focus of that, and I did hit a little bit of it right before the end, but just to try to get the highlights of what I wasn't able to get to. But it was just how we really do need a fighter in Washington, D.C.
Yep.
And not a go along to get along or get along to go along. We need a fighter who's not afraid to actually call out and be the voice for North Dakota, for the American people against what's happening, against the big spending, against this culture war that we're fighting with diversity, equity, and inclusion crap, and the critical race theory crap, and the multi-genderism crap, and all of the crap. We need people to stand up and say, no, we're not going to play this game. We're not going to be nice. We're going to fight hard against this. We're going to turn it back instead of trying to get along with it. So it's kind of that.
Do you want to talk to the credentialing
you?
stuff? Because that was really interesting too.
Credentialing stuff? Oh. Well, I don't even know the whole story. There was a big delay. So the credentialing, you can explain much better than I could, but the credentialing is where they verify more or less which of the delegates that have been properly become delegates, have paid their dues, registered, come on time, present, ready to go.
Right.
Now, I've heard things. There was a big delay. Then what's interesting is I don't know what the delay was for. You know, we were supposed to get, because you can't really have a meeting and start until you know what how many people are credentialed. What's your number of people?
Right.
And there was a delay, a long delay, and I never did hear an explanation. However, I walked in and out a couple of times, you know, doing stuff, and so maybe I missed it. But it's very odd if you don't at least have an explanation to let people know. What I had heard, and again,
Hearsay.
you've got other guests, it's hearsay, totally hearsay. But what I had heard is that the bus that Hoven had people on hadn't yet arrived, and they were delaying the credentialing so that they could be on board. Don't know if there's any truth to that.
I had heard that too, but I didn't see any buses. I did see
there's a bus.
pictures.
Yeah,
I
there was a
saw
bus,
I
but
saw
I don't
pictures of buses and things like that. But there were 2,321 people credentialed, and so what we did then is we had just started with the program and did the call to order, the invocation, the presentation of colors. We had done the Pledge of Allegiance, the national anthem. Mayor Steve Bakken from Bismarck gave a welcome, and then there was an appointment of Sergeant at Arms, and then everything kind of just stopped because they couldn't necessarily get the credential number. Well, then they finally figured out the credential number later on, but what they decided to do was actually break for lunch right off the bat. So what we did is those of us on the dais went down and went looking to make sure that the food was ready for people. So then we broke and we had a lunch, and then we started with the actual business of getting everybody set. And I think what happened was they had a total number of credentials, but they didn't maybe necessarily have the individual districts broken down as they should be. And I think that because later on when there were votes taken, like in my district in 47, we had 80 delegates seated, but when the ballots came, there were only 36 ballots.
Well, they had an hour and a half to correct that.
There was some weirdness.
So why? I don't know.
It was just frustrating. It was just frustrating for my poor chairman, who's like, why do I not have enough ballots? But anyway, they did get it sorted out. It took some time, but then we got going with everything. And honestly, there was a lot of excitement. I think before we came into the hall and people were outside of the rooms, there was just a lot of dialogue with everybody, and people were very, very excited to be there, and there was high energy.
Well, the whole evening before, and then that whole morning, which my voice is still
right. Mine too. It's very low.
Constant talk, and at my booth, it was generally like 4 people wide, 3 people deep, and so projecting for 4.5 hours. I was shocked that I was able to give the speech, because that's just, and yet it wasn't, I didn't feel fatigued. You know, you feel energized.
Right.
People are asking good questions, and some are challenging, and some are agreeing, and it's really what the nature of the convention is supposed to be about. Engagement, education, or information. Yeah, it was good. It was very good.
So going forward,
yeah.
have you any plans? I mean, that is what's on everybody's mind. I can't tell you how many people have asked, about that already. Any ideas of what you want to do going forward, politically at least? I don't see you not being in a movement and not continuing your.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of pressure to run in the primary. Some people are kind. Most people are very kind about it. Some people are not kind about it and are saying, if you don't run, you're letting us all down, and you're another rhino and whatever. But, but no, I'm not going to, number one, I'm not going to run in the primary.
You said that
I gave my word.
convention.
I always keep my word. I will not run in the primary. I don't have any political plans. That might have been my swan song. We'll see. I don't know. I'm not, as opposed to what some pundits say, I am not trying to get myself to a high position. What I'm trying to do is further the cause. I know I've done it over the last 10 years. I know that I've been a part of it in this campaign in a very big way that I'm so happy with. So it's all about the movement. I think I've done what I can do. Is there another political position in the future? Maybe, but I certainly don't have plans for one. I want to slow down. I want to, just take it easy a little bit.
I think that's a good idea. It's been pretty fast and furious for the last couple of months here.
Well, it's been fast and furious for the last 10 years. So, but anyway, at the convention, one thing I wanted to say is that you talked about the excitement and the passion. And I think hopefully what all of the statewide candidates saw, and what the people who may one day become candidates saw, is the very big difference between the two campaigns and their level of passion and their level of enthusiasm, which really stems from their level of belief in the principles that they say they're standing for. Because if you don't really, really believe it, it's hard to be passionate about it. It's hard to be passionate to say, hey, I just want to keep my job.
So you're contrasting the two speeches and the reactions to them.
Absolutely, you're exactly right. The two speeches, the response with the audience, the words, the emotion, everything. And what I've heard from allegedly through the Hoven campaign is they had their numbers down, which I firmly believe. They have such a good machine. They knew what their numbers were going into it. And over the course of the speeches, they lost 100 votes. And that's what I said is that there's no way they picked up a single vote during the speeches. There was nothing to be excited about. And again, the campaign's over. I'm not trying to ding him. I'm trying to make sure that people hear the message that if you aren't passionate, if you don't believe the things that you are saying, if you don't truly want to create a better North Dakota and a better America, it's not going to translate. And it's going to be very hard to pick up votes.
Interesting. So, I mean, that 100 votes number
Well,
is...
we converted 100. Apparently we needed to convert 200. That's how it goes in politics.
That is exactly how it goes in politics. Well,
Yeah.
I would love to see what you are planning to do next, because I know that there are those in the state, and they've said it to me too when I was there, who are really, really fired up about moving forward in a good way. Now, the theme of the convention was unity. Did you see unity?
Nope, I didn't see too much unity. And I gave a concession speech that did say, you know, the slogan is unity, and we do need to work on that a little bit. And I did say both sides could work on it and work on communication. And on the establishment side, you know, if they're really interested in unity, what they need to do is recognize that all of these new people coming in are good. It's the same way when they wanted to hold the Tea Party out. And Gary Emineth was very good at trying to bring them into the fold. It's the very same way. This group will make the party stronger. You have to embrace them. You have to teach them. You have to nurture them. You don't put up walls to block them out. On my side, people are frustrated and they're passionate, but they have to remember, if they want to make change, they have to be able to do it not by going in and fist fighting, you know, rhetorically speaking. They need to go in and learn a little bit of the ropes, and you can take over, you can make the party what you want it to be. But when you go in yelling and screaming and fighting, it's going to be harder.
Right.
And not everyone does that. But I'm saying each side could work on something where we would actually make the Republican Party stronger, thereby making the state stronger. And so I think there's a message there. However, the people, the party that brought up the slogan, they actually weren't interested in unity. But I do think unity would be good for the state.